Some of the comments in FERC's environmental impact statement for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline are so juvenile that I think a fifth grader would understand that it's not true.
4 years ago, when we first started looking at this pipeline, we were concerned that it could not be built without extreme damage to the streams and the landscape, that the technology is not available to allow construction on this scale, straight up and down hillsides like this, that the ordinary routine best management practices haven't been demonstrated to work in these kinds of conditions. And what we do know about them is that they don't work.
So to construct the pipeline here, they'd first have to flatten this area 125 feet wide, which means cutting it down 20 feet. Beyond that, they'd have to dig an additional trench 10 feet deep. So imagine this being flattened and all these trees gone. Then they'd have to take the material that they took off the top and do something with it. We said, what are you going to do with that? They said they'll place it on this slope here, 78% slope, and protect it with silt fence, which is an 18-inch high fabric fence. All this material will fall down into the hollow.
They can't hold hillsides like this up without extreme technology. What they propose to do in this area is to put down something akin to chain link fence flat on the ground, which will be nailed to the hillside with 20-foot long steel rods. They've had problems elsewhere with slopes like this, foot slopes sliding straight down into the streams. The Forest Service, which had veto authority over this pipeline, was holding out for the kind of detailed engineering plans that would need to be evaluated to determine whether this project could be built in a responsible manner. We would argue that it cannot. Now, the game that's been played is Dominion has done everything it could to resist providing the detailed plans. And most of the agencies have played along and not required them to provide that level of detail. The Forest Service was the only agency that was requiring the level of detail in terms of plans that would be required for an objective evaluation of the project. And now none of the agencies are doing that.
One of the dimensions of this fight that has bothered me the most and continues to bother me, my having once been a lobbyist, is the utter deceit with which Dominion has dealt with local officials in particular. They've intimidated them, they have threatened them, they have made promises they can't keep, and they've also done this with other levels of government, and I think it's shameful.
From the beginning, my marching orders have been get as much information out of Dominion and ACP as you can, and let's put it in the light of day. Let's get this public, and so that's to a large extent been the approach of the county. We've tried on a local level just to try to keep them honest.
We have a program which we call the Compliance Surveillance Initiative, or CSI. And what that is a program whereby citizens can make observations of construction and then report them to us. We have a CSI Central that will field this input from citizens, and then we will send out experts and our pipeline Air Force to investigate and report what we see to the agencies. The idea is that we want to ensure strict enforcement and strict compliance. Now, we don't believe that this project can be built in compliance, and we intend to demonstrate that and to use the power of the law to force them into compliance or either to stop the project altogether. So we've been following the data. It's updated every half an hour and it's collected every 5 minutes. So we can see the flow level, we can see when the stream rises, and we can see the extent to which the stream becomes muddy. We expect that to change radically once this project starts. Just imagine tractor-trailer trucks loaded with 40-foot pipe, bulldozers, and all of the other excavation equipment crossing this stream over and over for a period of about a year.
Highland County is known for its spring water, and that means it's traveling water. And one year you may have water above ground, and the next year it may go underground, and you may not see it above ground for another 10 years. That's the nature of the limestone topography out here. I think the supervisors continue to be concerned about the karst topography that any kind of heavy construction like this will entail in karst topography has the potential for disaster.
I've submitted 250 pages of comments, good comments to FERC regarding the pipeline and the tremendous negative impacts that would have. And it seemed to me that FERC is, by law, is supposed to review those comments and then incorporating them into their environmental impact statement. I didn't see any of my comments in any way incorporated into the environmental impact statement.
This particular fight is different than other fights like it because the people who are being affected are not traditional activists and not traditional environmentalists. They're just everyday folk who believe that there is a values issue at work here.
They're very much against it. Well, to tell you the truth, I am too. I don't think we need it.
They wouldn't go through the national forest up here. It was the best way to went through. Of course, they didn't want to go through them. They want to take our land instead. So, like I said, there's no way to stop it. There's too much power involved, too much money.
What I've seen over the last 2 years has just shattered my image of how our society is supposed to work and how our government is supposed to represent us. That's not happening. And that's a recipe for disaster for all of us, I think.
It is dawning on some of the public officials, some members of the Congress and some state legislators in Virginia at least, that there's a lack of fairness to the process. So that's why I think that the forces are at work that will ultimately lead to a change in the process. How much of a change, I don't know, but I do think that there will be change.